There we go. And there's Dave. Okay. So, hello everybody. It's great. So, and the Mr. Sci-Fi is live too. There's Elaine in all her glory. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So, who would like to go first? Is it not Dave Edison? David? Oh, hi, Christine. Do you want to go first? You never get to go first. Just make sure you speak up.
And make sure you're not muted.
Or unmute your mic.
Oh, we can't hear you. We cannot hear you. Yes, but talk, project.
Everybody's favorite game.
Yes.
Unmute your mic. Yay!
I'm Christine Laurie. I'm a principal for work at the moment. I so I kind of popped in and bumped out of this group because I love everybody here and I miss everybody being in person. Look forward to that time period in the future. And it's good to see familiar faces. It's good to see faces I haven't seen in a long while. And definitely do great things. Something I worked on back in April. They're having us come back to do another part. And then they said, oh yeah, we need you. And then they went, well, we need you, but not yet. So I have no idea what that means, but that's something to look forward to in the future. And based on the number of table emails, I would say that things are rocking and rolling and being funded again and moving forward. And it's very exciting times.
Yeah.
So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Good for you. What exactly is your position, though, in this great new project that may be coming back?
The one is somebody told me if I sent my selfie picture that I could be background in a, and I'm like, I can make a selfie. So I did that because, I didn't have to do lines, I didn't have to do anything. So it's literally a background thing.
Well, but fun.
And I know I ended up on film because the somebody from wardrobe came up and adjusted my wardrobe, and somebody from continuity came up and said exactly what you just did. Do exactly that again. And I'm thinking, okay. And the whole time I was there, Elaine, I definitely thought of you because you have to walk from point A to point B repetitively. And every time I took a couple steps, I was like, what would my eyes be saying? What would I be doing? So every couple, 3 feet, 4 feet, I would do something. I would move some body part. I would look the other way. I was realistic for what I was doing, and I thought of you for that one.
That's great. Okay, good for you. Well, congratulations! Yay, yay! And I'm sure everybody, you've been invaluable to Judith. She's always talking about you and how invaluable you've been to her. So that's great.
But she's having difficulty. I don't know if it's maneuvering the computer to get to the right email to connect to the Zoom link or what exactly is the difficulty. But definitely I'm going to reach out to her about that and find out so that in the future she's all set up. Somebody might have to go over there on Thursdays and set it all up, so all she has to do is push the button.
But fortunately, she said just Friday after this one, they're letting her out. So.
That's exciting.
So we may not have to, she may be up and running. Yes. So, okay. So, and I thought Judith would be with us, but she says hi to everybody. She really misses the table. David Bartlett and I went and had a long, pleasant chat with her today after we finally found the place, which took quite a while. I had the wrong address. And, but Ms. Christine Laurie got us there when I called her. So we actually found our target audience. Okay, well, yeah, thank you. Welcome. Yay. Okay, so who's next? Adam, do you want to go?
Yeah, I can take my turn.
Sure.
Hi, hello folks. My name's Adam Sartain. I am an actor, voice actor, and I am an associate producer on Space Command.
Yay!
And I'm also a musician that plays to a couple other things. So this week has been, I can't say boring, but less eventful, let's say. I did have, last week I did record 2 podcast episodes, so now I'm finally getting around to editing the second of those episodes so I can, launch it on Monday. But I have a new guest scheduled for Saturday, so I'll still have my little buffer, but it's getting a little tight there. I really like to have extra podcast guests in the pipeline, so that if I miss a week, I don't worry so much. Because the week before last, I didn't have a podcast guest, and I missed. I didn't have a podcast episode to air. So I like having it nice and preordained or pre-set up.
Great.
As it were. So that's going well. I have an audition for, I think it's like a documentary type film, where I'm playing, it's not exactly a documentary, but it's like I'm playing a character that does documentary, like a David Attenborough type.
Cool.
That's what I'm auditioning for. So they just sent me the sides today, so I'm working on that. And that and the podcast, and cooking up a little something for Space Command. Working on that, or not Space Command, but a different thing. That Mark, I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Okay, so in terms of your guests, what is so you can spread the word, what would be the ideal guest? What are you looking for in your podcast guests?
My ideal guest works in the animation industry.
Okay.
And I mean any part of the industry, whether they're a director or a producer or a writer or an animator, whether they animated an entire short or animated the legs of Moana on, I want any and all people in the industry, and I want to cast a wide net. Yes.
I did sound design on Aladdin 2 and Rugrats.
Oh, perfect. All right. Yeah, I'll have you on.
We'll be in the pod there.
I'll get you scheduled. Yeah.
Any footsteps for an animated character is a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have you gone to the Writers Guild, the animation wing of the Writers Guild?
I haven't gotten around to that yet, but
try.
I definitely want to.
Go for that, because those are great guys. Yeah. And a lot of them have been in the animation field like forever. So I think you'd have fun. But the Guild has a large animation wing.
Right. And I've been working on getting Rob Paulson as well. He does voice. He's a voice actor and does the voice of Pinky and Pinky and the Brain, and he does a ton of other voices like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's me.
Okay. Yay!
3 cheers. Is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question yet, Adam?
There is.
Here I am.
We have a Kevin Scott 76 question.
Hello, Kevin Scott.
Any thoughts on the music in movies and TV that are not part of the soundtrack, but the music the characters are listening to?
I find often, one thing that it used to be in television is you would never, ever, ever, or in a movie script, you would never say specifically what the what the music they're listening to is. You would never call that out in a script because it was considered a mark of amateurism. But then all of a sudden it started to be done in major movies and TV shows, and now they get all of these very specific songs. I find often the songs are much too on the nose, much too specific to what the character's going through or what the plot line is doing, and I find that very irritating. When it's done well, it can be really great, but more often than not, it's not done well. So yeah. So there you go. So let's see. So David, did you want to take your turn, or do you want to wait?
I have to leave at like 5:55.
Sure.
Wait a little bit more.
Okay.
Or I can also come back and finish off either way.
But if you want,
I've had really great results with waiting to get volunteers before. Now it's time to maybe I'll wait.
okay, that's fine. So so then next on my screen is Karen. If you want to go, Karen, if you'd like to introduce yourself and say what you're up to, make sure you unmute.
I think I'm unmuted.
There you go. Yeah, you are.
All right, great. Okay, hi everybody. I'm the new kid on the block here, and my friend Lyle Weldon told me about it. So I've been looking forward to seeing what's going on and meeting everybody.
Great.
I have been a producer, writer in the industry for about 30 years now.
Great.
I've done a lot of different things, from kids stuff to daytime stuff, development, writing, pitching, producing features and documentaries, and new features and documentaries. The producing gigs got, quite honestly, if there's any other producers here, have gotten worse and worse and worse. It's just a nightmare producing things these days. So about 5-6 years ago, I just started writing full time. So now I've got some screenplays that are out there. I've got an animation series that I'm pitching right now for kids and families. I like to write a lot of different things. So I have a lot of different things on my slate. So I basically tell my friends I write and wait.
So is there anything?
I send something in, then I wait for however long it takes to get an answer.
Sure. So is there anything you need or any questions you have?
Well, I guess I'm always looking for connections because I don't have an agent right now. I've had 3 in the past, but it's gotten harder and harder to get one these days. So I'm looking for people who have open doors that can help get me into places. I'm open to working partnerships. You know, I just need, my biggest challenge is getting into open doors and finding can help me do that. I can find out what people are looking for, but I can't always get in those doors. So.
Yes, and so here, among the things I would suggest, first of all, the table is made up of thousands of members. We've been going every Thursday for 28 years. We're going to be getting the in-person aspect of the table going again in the next few weeks, and so a good idea is David Bartlett, the guy who's that guy. He can get you signed up on the email list, and then you can send one email out to the entire table introducing yourself, and it's a great way to get to know a number of people. Additionally, things are starting to open up where any event you can go to, even via Zoom, that has someone talking that you can gain from their expertise, or even being there might be a way of meeting them, would be a very, 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 very good idea, because everyone, of course, has gone a bit stir crazy over the last year. The amazing thing, the thing that's really never happened before in any of our lifetimes, is for the first time when you're talking to an executive, we've all been cooped up for a year. Yeah. And so it's a shared experience with everyone you'll be talking to and encountering. That's a very good thing. And so the rules have shifted somewhat, and again, so yes.
What is it that I don't like the idea of producing, but power.
But you are one.
Yeah, you grab at any threads, right?
Yeah.
So what was it that became so impossible with producing, that rather than being a writer producer, that made you drop that aspect of producing? What went wrong?
Yeah. Well, it was basically one last experience where there was so much betrayal and sabotage going on this film behind the scenes. There were a lot of, as producer, the director who was a very dear friend of mine at the time, she was also an actress, and she was very good at going in the direction where the praise was coming from, if you know what I'm saying. So, there was a person there who really, really worked that to her advantage, and I just, quite honestly, over the years have just realized that the producing aspect, I always felt the producer's job was to protect the film, save the integrity, protect the crew.
Yes.
And it's become more and more about being the one who takes all this shit, excuse my language. Everything becomes the producer's fault now. Everything's under the producer. Nobody wants that job. It's all about the budgets, and it's all about basically just being the bad guy. And I don't want to be a bad guy. I'm a good guy, and I'm a very creative thinker. And I think more than anything, after 30 years was just kind of like tired of it because of the pressure that's put on you. And I always wanted to write. So I just thought, as the industry started changing with positioning and everything and the budgets and the studios went and how managers were involved and, agents or producers now, it was just getting way too out there from what I really enjoyed doing. I just simply did not enjoy it anymore. That was the bottom line.
Okay, that's fine.
fair. But if you want to keep things open, and I understand that it can be kind of nasty.
Yes.
But the waiting is kind of nasty too.
Well,
and so if you wanted to keep your mind open for a partner or a couple of partners, women working together, where you have the same basic objective, I wouldn't be saying this except that waiting can make you absolutely insane.
yeah.
And the fact that you have that experience, but had unfortunately chosen in an unfortunate way who you trusted, which we all fall into every now and again, did not close your mind to the fact that there may be some really worthwhile people where you could create a consortium and not be all on your own and not wait and wait and wait. Just a suggestion.
Yes.
I think that's great, and I am really open. I haven't shut the door on anything. It's just that, also the projects, just kind. I don't know how to describe it. There was just a shift in how things were working. I love working with other women. I'm a woman's woman for sure, and I love mentoring young women. I love all that about it. I am really open to that, and I am also open to producing. I'm really good at it. I have a lot of success at it. So I am open to that, and I'm certainly open to creating partnerships with others. No doubt about it.
Yeah. And again, the key thing about all of this stuff, and it's a mistake that many people make, is anyone you're affiliating with, you have to think of what's in it for them. How does it serve their dream or their career ambitions? In other words, how can it be a win-win? Because many people, they're not thinking in those terms, and as a result, it doesn't go well. But so
and also there are stinkers.
Well, I mean, but also another great way of knowing who's worth working with is look at their track record, look at what they've done, see if they are there for the long haul, see if when they encounter obstacles, if they quit or if they find ways around them or through them. So those are all possibilities. So anything else for now?
No, I'm good for now.
Great.
I just want to hear what everybody else has got going on.
Hey.
Okay.
Well, welcome, Karen.
Now we had a quick call from Judith Smiley. The problem is that there is a specific connection that everybody's too busy. That at where she is staying, where Judith Smiley is staying.
Just to bring people up to speed, Judith Smiley is a longtime table member who has suffered several major injuries, and she's now in rehab and will be going back home in about a week. And Elaine saw her today, as did David Bartlett.
But she's
ostensibly.
great. She's great. And she said there's a very specific way to get online where she's staying, which is a rehab place, although it's only one more week.
Okay.
But she hasn't been able to grab anybody to do that.
Wait, you mean to help her do that?
Do that, yes.
Okay.
But Christine, if you can give her a call tomorrow, she asked you to do that. So that's all, but she says hello to everybody.
Great. Okay, great. Yay. 3 cheers. So Adam, is there nothing, and for those who don't know, we do a simulcast with my Mr. Sci-Fi YouTube channel. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. The next question is from Gregory Krug, who asks, do you remember when you first learned about Rod Serling's passing? Was his death a significant moment for you?
Yes, it was. I was at the Clarion Writers Workshop in East Lansing, Michigan. It was, it's the leading science fiction writing workshop in the country. I was 19 years old, and it was a huge shock. I mean, Rod had been a major influence, and so all of us were very upset by it. Kim Stanley Robinson was another of the students there. Robert Crace. They both became major writers. It was just, it was quite something, and frankly, I wouldn't have undertaken the Twilight Zone Companion if Rod had been still alive, because if anyone should write a book about the Twilight Zone, it would have been him. But because he wasn't going to write that book, then I stepped up and did it. So that's what happened.
Was his death expected by that point?
No. And by the way,
a couple of days ago was the anniversary.
I'm getting an echo. So if anyone can mute their mic, that'd be great. So that we don't get echoes. No, it wasn't expected at all. He started to have chest pains, and of course he smoked 4 packs a day. He drank, of course. He was like that Hemingway kind of guy, from that generation. But he went in for essentially for bypass surgery, and apparently had a heart attack on the table, and died. He was only 50, but no, the family was not expecting him to die. It was a huge shock at the time, and
So he didn't die of cancer.
no. No, it was complications from open heart surgery, and but the interesting thing was that although no one expected him to die, Rod kind of felt like an old guy. He'd referred to him, even in his 40s, he'd referred to himself as Old Rod, and he felt like kind of the world had passed him by. His daughters, particularly Jodie, they were sort of very much into Easy Rider and sort of that whole counterculture thing, and he just felt like he was no longer really pertinent in a certain way. And so it's kind of interesting because he spoke as though he were someone who was not going to be around for the next 30 or 40 years. So it was in, but my God, he got so much done in the time he had. It was astonishing. I mean, every showrunner envies Rod's output. I mean, phenomenal. In over 5 years, he wrote 92 of the 156 Twilight Zone episodes himself. Plus, he wrote the movie 7 Days in May. Plus, he was writing books. I mean, he just was a phenomenally creative writer. So yeah. What were you going to say, Elaine? No? Okay, so Dave, I see you're next on my screen.
Okay, we still haven't done
All right.
I know.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Mr. Sci-Fi.
Hello.
Listeners. Hello. I'm Dave Edison. I edit this thing called Space Command.
Yay!
And other stuff. Just been another week moving forward. We're getting some new VFX shots. I've got some here right now that I'm going to download and add to the current cut. We are going full tilt, trying to get the second episode done. I mean, it's, you can watch this thing. It's there. It's ready. But there are just certain little things that need to be, you can't move in yet. You got to plaster all the walls and make sure everything's painted up nice. And
yes.
So anyway, so we're getting there. We're trying to get this second episode done while we're gearing up to complete shooting the third episode. And I've been in touch with with our VFX team, and as has David Bartlett, and just moving forward. There are probably other things going around. I'm currently trying to find some old files so that we can see if there's some footage that we think might have existed that we want to try to put into the project, even at this late date.
Great.
So we're just, we're making a TV show.
Yay!
Come join us. Anyway, that's about it.
Okay.
Welcome to summer. Happy 4th of July, and talk to you soon.
Yay! Thank you, Dave. So, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, we have a Scott Baker question. Which is, as you're my favorite DS9 writer, I thought maybe you can solve a generational mystery.
Yes.
Why did Thomas Riker greet Chief O'Brien so rudely in the season 3 episode Defiant?
I don't think I've seen that episode. It's funny, if I'm on a show, I'll watch all the episodes, but if I'm a freelancer, I'll usually watch all the ones leading up to the one that I'm working on, but I don't remember the specifics of that. I mean, I know Jonathan Frakes. He's someone that I actually want to cast. I've actually offered him roles over various times, but I don't have the answer to that. I'd have to watch the episode, and then I could, say something intelligent. As opposed to most people, I like to actually know what I'm talking about before I have an opinion. But the funny thing is, with every Star Trek, the original Star Trek, yes, I do know those backwards and forwards, and and of course Twilight Zone. I'm freakish, but okay, cool. So David Bartlett, do you want to do your man thing? David, are you there? David Bartlett? No, I guess he's fallen asleep. He's nodded off. David Bartlett? No, he's not.
I think he might be frozen.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Frozen, David.
He's frozen.
Okay. Well, we'll try back.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So Thane, you're next on my screen. Go for it. Oh no, he lifted his eyes.
Oh,
David, we were talking to you. Do you want to take your turn?
I heard a couple of words there for a minute.
Yeah, it's you. It's your turn.
I'll tell you what, let me come back in about half an hour.
Okay. We'll do.
Okay. So Thane, it's your turn. Go for it.
Okay. I'm Thane Allison, SAG-AFTRA character actor.
Great.
Like everybody else, unthawing from the great pandemic freeze and starting to stir a bit. From time to time, a little bit nervous. I guess I have a curiosity
Yes.
question. I'm a SAG union actor. And my manager has been barking at my heels. Well, why don't you grab a couple of friends and write something and tape it, and so we can put it up online that can show your skills and be a little more refreshing and so on. So I've been nodding my head and playing the game. And a couple of weeks ago, a producer friend called me and said the actress in common that we knew in common was going to be in town. Would I be interested in working with them to write a little script and shoot something? And I thought, ding, 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 ding. Her son is a videographer. The other actress I've experienced is quite good, and it seemed like a moment when we could do something. So I threw out a couple of ideas, and a couple of days later, I got a call of, well, Vicky's going to be, this was Tuesday night, Vicky's going to be flying all day Wednesday and shooting something else on Thursday. Would you be willing to go ahead and write the script for Thursday night shooting? Okay, now I'm a writer. So I wrote a little script, 5 pages, and sent it around and got a couple of comments, and that went well. And we shot it the other evening at the Rose Bowl and places. And it's now in edit. And then yesterday in my weekly conversation with my manager, I said, and last week, finally took your advice, got some footage on the card. Nobody puts it on tape anymore. And then I get this whole ration of who was the COVID compliance officer?
Oh,
did you register
Christ.
with the union? Did you have your script with the DGA before you showed it to anybody else?
Oh my God.
Who's going to protect you? What was the contract you had with the production company?
Oh, man.
You can't show that anywhere else. And it's like, I thought it was a group of friends got together and shot a short film that I think is going to be a little bit interesting. And now it's like, well, but there are 100,000 rules that you got to live with.
No. No, I mean, again, this is a perfect example where you just say to him, you are the Antichrist. I mean, again, it's just such bullshit. You wrote a sample scene for your reel. It was not. It's the equivalent of a spec script. I can sit down and write any damn thing I want because I'm a writer. I don't have to work a writer's contract with myself, even though I'm in the Writers Guild.
If it's not for public consumption.
Yes.
If it's just for your reel, because we would hand out stuff constantly.
Well, there's another way to do it too.
If it's just for your reel and not for public consumption, if it's just a sample, everything he said was complete and utter nonsense. That's not how it works. If it's just as an example of your work, none of that will not be seen publicly. I'm not going to show it publicly. It's just for a display.
Yes, but But another way of doing it is you could call them back and say, oh, it's funny. After our conversation, I realized that we actually shot this in 2019. And I just came across it in my sofa cushions. I mean, again, it's like, my feeling about all of this stuff is I want to work with people who've gotten their shots, period. I don't want to endanger anybody. I don't want anyone to be endangered. I want, that's my philosophy. But, I assume that you've had your shots, Thane. I mean,
all four of us were
yeah,
fully vaccinated.
Yes. Well,
and we kept our distance and wore our masks.
Yeah, but again, it's like,
it wasn't for public.
It's not. If you all had your vaccinations, I mean, you're okay. You're fine. It's not a problem.
It's got nothing to do with guilt. It is not meant for sale. It is not meant for public display. It is simply an exhibit of your skills.
Yes.
And I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah,
I mean, he really doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yes.
So we can't put it on YouTube, is that right?
Of course you can. Of course you can. Of course you can. Don't worry about it. Don't fret. It's fine. It's not. I mean, it's just fine. It's a sample piece, basically to show your skills. That's all it is. Don't worry about it.
You're not asking for money or.
If anyone comes after you, I'll write a defense of you, and it's like it's I mean, I think there's common sense, and then there's fear-based insanity. And the question is always, are you being driven by fear, or are you being pulled by enthusiasm? And as long as you don't have PAs standing on railroad tracks or whatever, I mean,
God.
as long, I know, sorry, but you exercised caution, and you're fine. I mean, it's fine. No animals were harmed in the shooting of this piece, including humans. So you're fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And if he gives you any shit, have him call me. I'll talk to him. I'll set him straight. So anything else, Thane?
No, I've had 3 or 4 auditions, and no offers, but every audition is another step up the ladder. And,
yes.
Exercise.
Yes. Great.
And I kind of got this self-tape business down to something less than 4 hours to do a 2-minute audition.
Good.
Good for you.
Good.
If I can convince my internet provider to give me a faster, it was going to be 4 hours to upload a 2-minute clip to Dropbox, and so I put it on a thumb drive and drove it across town.
Good. Well, that's great. So anything else for now?
Keep it on, and hope to get out to the studio there sometime in the next couple of weeks and deliver some prop stuff, and maybe help out on whatever is cooking that day.
Thanks.
Everything's cooking these days.
Yeah.
But
if you ever don't want to write something, you want to improvise, think of a topic that you feel very strongly about, that your partner feels strongly about, both on the same wavelength.
Yes.
And then argue against your own point of view. Justify it in the most ridiculous ways, and have them try and talk you out of it. Just argue pull it out of thin air, and try and say why everything that you both believe is wrong, while he or she try and convince you otherwise.
Yeah.
The most fun I ever had on set was an improvised argument, and about halfway through, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes of arguing, then the director said, "All right, you take the other side." And we filmed it all, and I guess I don't know what happened with that, but it was sure a lot of fun to just be out on we were at an airport and out on the tarmac and arguing about the bill of sale on an airplane.
Arguments are great. I was once shown a scene that was supposed to be funny. There's 2 guys arguing, and the director said, "Why isn't this funny?" And I said, "Because the actors are trying to believe what they're saying. It should be that neither of them believes anything that they're saying."
Yes. Well, they know they're full of shit, and they're trying to bluster through it.
Yeah. And so that's why it was funny, except somehow they missed that.
Well, there you go.
I almost went to jail over a 65-cent parking fee once.
Oh my God.
You know, they got out the handcuffs and
Well, but great. So great. So anything else, Thane?
oh, I'm good.
Yay!
I
Three
took out
cheers.
my criminal past.
Great. So, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, we have a question from Herbert Thornton,
Great.
who says, I saw your copy of Zimyatin's We.
Yes.
Many don't know that the Russians beat us to a dystopian fiction.
Yes.
And his question is, my friends are trashing me for, I'm going to say, liking Star Trek Discovery.
Huh,
they say it doesn't look forward. Explain.
Okay. The real experience of any TV show or movie, you know, it's a conversation between everything you've experienced in your life up until that moment and what the show is or what the movie is. So it's different for every person. I have my opinions about Star Trek Discovery, but that doesn't mean that you have to have my opinions. I'm totally fine with people who like stuff I don't like. So if someone trashes you for liking it, just say to them, hey, it's a TV show. This isn't, World War II. It's like, no, there's over 500 TV series, scripted comedy and drama series on television now, on American television. And so if you don't like something, you don't have to watch it. If you don't like something, watch something else. There's plenty to be seen. And that's what I would advise. I mean, the problem I have with Star Trek Discovery is I keep rooting for it and it keeps breaking my heart, but to be fair, I haven't seen all of season 3 yet. Haven't watched season 2 of Picard, haven't seen Strange New Worlds yet, haven't watched Lower Decks. So, because again, I got stuff to do. I got, with me, it's always, do you watch a TV show or do you make one? So, going between the features we're doing and the TV shows we're doing and the books I'm writing and all of this stuff, it's like, okay, fine. So Elaine and I actually tend to watch TV for about maybe 2 hours in the evening if we have the time. But beyond that, we're not, we're not binge watching anything. We're not spending days back to back watching television. So, okay, great. So now, Robert LaRocca, you're next on my screen. Go for it.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, thanks for giving me the chance to speak. It was actually, I heard about the table through Larry Altshuler, who passed on the invitation, and he says hi.
Great.
I'm a writer. I wrote plays, short stories before that, plays starting in college. Some were produced way off Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And then my interest turned to film. And during and after film school, I started working. This is when I was living in New York, in post-production on documentaries. One was, through no fault of mine, one was Oscar nominated, one was Emmy nominated. I just kind of lucked into those situations. And before that, I worked for a couple of small production companies in New York as a script analyst.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So I was working in documentaries, then I left that to take care of a relative. And then after that, I asked myself, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And I decided to go back to writing and screenwriting, since I was interested in film and TV rather than theater. And I moved out here, feeling like I needed to be out here in order to meet people. And then the shutdown happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been using that time to take classes at UCLA Extension and work on my writing portfolio. I've got a horror comedy, a codependent dramedy, TV spec of What We Do in the Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start working on an original pilot soon. But what I really think I can offer the group is that I'm someone who is wanting to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in production companies a little, worked in sets a little bit, and I just want to meet people who are making stuff and help them make it and learn from them.
Great.
And it seemed like a good place to go.
Cool. So is there any questions you have or needs you have at the moment?
Right now, I'm just, if anyone needs a body to do something, I'm actually going back to New York July 7th, and I'll be back here middle of August. But I'll be jumping in on Zoom. And if anyone wants to exchange scripts and give or receive feedback, I'm up for that too.
Cool. Well, when David Bartlett rejoins us in a few minutes, he can sign you up for the table email. We actually do have an offshoot of the table in New York, interestingly enough, and they'll probably be resuming in-person meetings too, and also we're building sets. So there's a lot at our studio. We're building an alien spaceship, so that's pretty fun. But also just in terms of what you were saying in terms of the scripture writing, Elaine and I have written for pretty much all the major networks and studios, hundreds of hours of network television, and I've also written bestsellers in fiction and nonfiction. So the fascinating thing about all of it is the changing landscape. Things are so different from how they were even 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and so the trick is to be as bold as you can. The trick is to go out of your way to meet the people whose work you really admire, and just do the work. I mean, you're doing the work, you're writing the scripts. That's the most important thing. And then anything you can do to get the work looked at. That's why I like to shoot stuff rather than just write stuff, because I can have my own YouTube channel. I can put it out in the world. I can gain a fan base and grow that fan base. There's a lot of different ways to make stuff happen. It's fascinating. There was a time when you could not pitch a pilot if you hadn't gotten up to at least the level of producer in television, unless you had a big hit as a feature writer. That's not true anymore. People are being brought in to pitch pilots who've done memes, who've done any number of different things, web series. And so the rules have gotten extremely malleable, and that's a good thing. So now is your main interest horror? Because I heard the couple of things you're writing are horror. Is that your main focus?
Everything, the through line, everything is like a comedy. Sometimes it's a dark comedy, so that's where the horror stuff comes in.
Yes.
But one of my features is like a dramedy about a couple of codependents. It's a lot of it tends to be horror, but it's not exclusively horror.
Cool. That's great. One thing I would suggest you do is, as things open up, if you're in New York when New York Comic-Con happens, go to it. It's a lot nicer than San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, New Yorkers, everyone says New Yorkers are rude. They're not. I love New Yorkers. And, it's really much more civilized than San Diego Comic-Con, which I always describe as a cross between Woodstock and Auschwitz. So, but because again, the guys who are doing horror comedy, like the guys who are doing What We Do in the Shadows, they go to Comic-Con, they go to some of these events. Again, I strongly believe in meeting people whose work you admire, because if you're on their wavelength, they may well be on yours. And anything that intrigues them to check out your work can really be the difference between things happening and things not happening. So I ended up writing a book with Guillermo del Toro because I sought him out and met him a couple times, and it led to us collaborating on a book, so which was way fun. And so anything else for now, Robert?
No, that's it for now. Thanks.
Yay, welcome. 3 cheers. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yes. Our next Mr. Sci-Fi question comes to us from Mark Lungo.
Hello, Mark.
Another great question.
Oh, good.
Have any, what was that?
No, nothing. Keep going.
Have any of the Space Command actors or crew come up with ideas that you wound up keeping because they made the story more interesting?
Yes.
Absolutely.
The one who's really good at that is Robert Picardo. Bob mentioned all of his notes were great. We used all of them, and he once at one point I had written a scene where they talked about the Wizard of Oz, and Bob said, you never pay that off. So when we were shooting, I woke up with an idea for a scene. I told Elaine to drive, and I wrote the scene while we were driving to the studio. I then had our team print it out, and I gave it to Bob, and we shot it that day. I view actors as my partners. I never am averse to suggestions. That doesn't mean I'll take them, but I will certainly consider them seriously. And
we had like one of the crew who was Hispanic. He took on this character, the way that he was moving, the way that he was relating to the captain. He became the captain's protector. And it was like and that became just standard because that was what he responded to on the set. He really sold it, and it was like it enriched the character. So that happens a lot when a performer, you write them as best you can, but then because an actor steps into the skin and lives that character, they often come up with really great stuff.
Yes. So no, I love working with actors. So great. So let's see, Carol, I guess you're next on my screen. Go for it.
Hi, everybody. Happy July 1st.
Yay.
A few things. Yeah. Thing you reminded me of, I was in an episode of It's a Miracle. I don't know if you remember that show that Richard Thomas narrated.
Sure.
I think I was the lead in this episode. And at one point, the director looked mad and he started pacing. And he goes, Carol, drop the script. I went, what do you mean? I'm not holding the script. He goes, just improvise. And I went, well, all right. They used my improvisation for the entire episode. They dropped it completely. I think I could have gotten paid by something from Writers Guild or something. But so sometimes when you improvise, it's just so much more organic. And I can start seeing it in movies when, no, they're improvising here.
Yes.
Oftentimes it works. So I mean, not to be intimidated with any of that. I know I'm wearing 2 pairs of my 99-cent store glasses. Sorry, I've been a little negative the last few weeks with this with this literary manager because she's. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'm not sure. I did refer. She's looking for a non-paid position so I called Christine and I asked Christine if she'd like to look into it. I went back to her and I said, I have 2 people calling you about your non-paid position. She writes back, you're just the sweetest. And she's like, poor chick's like hot and cold. Sometimes she's like, yeah, that girl, yeah, okay. And another time she's like this. So I don't know how to deal with it, but nicely. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
I think she's an imaginary playmate. I don't think she exists. No, I mean, seriously, one thing that I've been getting very present to in my own life is people who are a fucking waste of time. And I'm not saying that this person is, but I'm just saying there's so many people that take so much energy that you would spend less energy actually doing the work than dealing with them. And so I think it's very important with everyone that we're working with to say, what have they actually accomplished? And to be very clear on what's a symbolic victory and what's a real victory, because they're 2 very, very different things. A real victory is you sell a movie and it gets made. You sell a book and it gets published. It's like it gets out to the audience. You build a body of work and a career. You earn money. So many of these agents, it's like lifting a building to just get them to do anything. And that's why, in the new book, I advise people to find a friend who's good on the phone and create a management company and just have that person rep you, and I mean, because again, it's less agony than having some of the, but again, the real reason always is people respond to cash flow. If they're getting 10% of what you earn and they're not getting a sizable amount of money from what you earn, then they are not incentivized to work. And so anytime you call and actually want her to do something for you, she's going to be kind of like, oh man. Whereas obviously if you're doing something for her that doesn't make her have to do anything, then of course she's going to be all sweetness and light, as would anyone, so.
Now is a very good time to research people who, representatives who seem to be forwarding material that carry your kind of themes, your kind of voice.
Yes.
Because while you have an agent, you're represented and you're seen of greater value.
Yes.
So when you say...
In terms of getting another representative,
yes,
you mean?
it's much easier to get another representative to replace your representative than to get one cold. So it's a very good time to start researching other people and putting the word out that you're looking for somebody who can handle this, that you have someone and it's they're very enthusiastic about your work, but it's just not a very good match.
Yes.
And you're looking for something that you're very ambitious and you're looking for somebody to help. But now would be the time, instead of continuing to beat at her, start doing the research and seeing who might be appropriate and approach them, letting them know that it's on the QT because you have someone, but it's just not proving to be a match. You're, you know.
So in that case, it's better to say you have someone as opposed. It's better to say
never leave an agent. Never leave an agent before you find another one.
Right.
Because just being able to say you're represented gives you a certain credibility. but again, you know, it's like a key thing, a super important thing is to sit down and just write down what you actually want to have happen, not what you want them to do, but what the end goal is. Because, for instance, when Glenn Mazzara suggested I start my own YouTube channel, it was like, okay, I see how I can utilize that. And for me, since my artistic goal is to get my work out to my audience with as little impediment as possible, I'm a pretty happy camper, you know, and because I don't need to endlessly try to incentivize people who are loathsome. And
well, we had an agent who wasn't loathsome, but that wasn't doing anything. So we began to beat the bushes for other agents without mentioning it to our current agent, but just well, that got us a free lunch with our current agent, who out of the blue suddenly said,
our then current agent
just sort of said, well, let's have lunch together. We thought, what's going on? And of course, the word got out that we were looking.
Well, yeah, but it was still pitiful. He was a sad mockery of a human being.
I have a question contractually. I know with SAG, if you haven't worked in 3 months, you can just leave the agent.
That's right. I think the writer's guild is similar. But again, you know, I like, for instance, if you want to earn a lot of money, then the studios and the networks and the major publishers are the ones who have a lot of money. If your goal is to get your work to an audience, then we all have the internet. We all have ways of getting out to people.
I don't care about that.
What you do?
I don't care about an audience. I want money.
Okay, well, but then get specific about that, because again, sometimes one can think, okay, let's see how to make this work. You can treat it as, like, if you say I want millions, that's one thing. If it's like I'd like, you know, $10,000 or whatever, you know, it's like it's, you know, it's just kind of thinking strategically, because again,
tell them about your experience with bestsellers, quote unquote.
What?
Well, you learned that.
Oh yeah, that's just Elaine wants me to talk about. Yeah, I had an agent at one point who reps Stephen King and George R.R. Martin and so forth. And at one point, I said, "Well, what dictates when a publisher decides something is a bestseller and promotes it as a bestseller?" And he said, "Well, you know, it just depends. It's qualitative. You know, it's about the quality of the work." And that seemed like total bullshit to me. So I then had lunch at one point with my editor at HarperCollins, who was a really good guy and really smart. And I said, well, what defines a bestseller? When does a publisher know to promote a book as a bestseller and put up those kind of advertising dollars? He said, it's a subgenre, just like science fiction, just like detective stories. It's a subgenre, and they have as many failures as in any of the genres. It's just they make that decision, but it has nothing to do with the quality of the work. And I thought, yes, that's the answer I was waiting to hear, because that's the answer that made sense to me, because I saw so many books that were being positioned as bestsellers that just kind of, you know, vanished without a trace. And so, but that was useful for me to know, because again,
well, there's the fellow on the panel who talked about how he started to write bestsellers.
I don't remember that story. Okay. No, it's I might have been some other husband you
have a couple of stories.
What? Which what? Who? What?
You have a couple stories to remember.
Yeah, we just celebrated our 44th anniversary. I'm drawing a moratorium on anecdotes. So, yay us. So, but yes, but again, Carol, I you know, one can. It's almost like barnacles. One can accrue all of these people who are attached like lampreys to one's body, who are just draining the life force out of you. And again, if they don't bring positive benefit, then don't waste the time and energy, you know.
Just look in other directions, you'll find someone.
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, contractually, well, I think it's an exclusive contract, but contractually, what if I do have a meeting? What if I decide to leave her on Monday, but tomorrow all of a sudden I have a meeting?
If she doesn't set up the meeting, if she has nothing to do with the meeting, it's irrelevant.
If she sets it up, I'm still locked in for a few more
months. If she sets it up, then yes, she commissions it. Absolutely, yes. But again, that doesn't mean you can't have someone else close the deal. It doesn't mean, you know, there's a lot of other ways to do it. That's a separate conversation.
That's a separate
yeah.
conversation.
So anything else?
I have 3 real quick questions. Does anybody know of any of the self-tape places that are open yet? If you do, please put it in the chat.
Okay.
If you're so kind, I don't want to self-tape at home. I'm not a camera person. The cameraman. So what else did I want? Yeah, when you write, do you beat everything out or not?
You mean no. Usually we get a sense of where we're going, but as we write, if a better idea comes up, we follow that. But that comes from decades of gaining those structural muscles, so you don't go totally off into the woods. But it's a good idea to I mean, particularly in television, you have to outline things fairly rigorously, simply because you don't have the time to go down a dead end. But often I'll have projects that I've just kind of been sitting on for years, just because I haven't gotten to a point where I figured out what makes it really entertaining all the way through. I'll have a notion. I think that's a fun notion, but it varies. But there's certain that are my favorites that I put more commitment into. But yeah, but I know very few people like outlining. Some people do, but generally most it's a chore. What you want to make sure is that you don't put so much energy into the outlining that you have no energy left for the script.
But writers are very, very different, and you want to find what makes you comfortable. There was one writer who made a lot of money, sold a lot of stuff, and what he did was he just thought of a topic and started writing bits and pieces. He'd write bits of dialogue, he'd write scenes, he'd write questions all around this one subject. He'd write speeches that would end up as single lines, and until he had envelopes full of bits and pieces around this one theme of a film, so that he never had to face the blank page. And for him it worked, but that wouldn't work for everyone. But for him it really worked.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So cool. Okay.
Last 10, Jones. Do you really feel comfortable opening right now with some variant floating around the universe there? Going to a restaurant?
Well, we're just starting to find a space, and then we'll insist that people be vaccinated. But again, we're feeling our way as we go. I mean, eventually there is going to be a mutation that probably will not be, this vaccination won't work with, and then we'll just.
But right now,
then it's all back home, and
right now, Jess, but we're just starting to look at spaces. Unfortunately, I just found out today because our Fabian, our former,
the manager at Marie Callender's, he can't help us. He's no longer there. He's a traitor. He's our enemy.
He's still working for Marie Callender's, but he's now in Lancaster.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
He tried to convince the power structure to have us return, but it's a different group of people.
It's not going to work.
Things.
No.
So that's not going to work. Howard Benjamin has an idea about an Italian
place in Burbank.
But the main thing is that we will ask the members for input, because it's like there are certain people who need this, who need the electronic and the Zoom aspect.
We're going to see if there's a way to have a Zoom component in the in-person meetings. And in terms of safety, Carol, my plan is for the first year of the in-person meetings, when we start back up, I'll just send someone who looks like me, and that'll keep me safe. So
Beverly Garland Hotel Coffee Shop might accommodate us.
The what, mate? The what?
Beverly Garland Hotel Coffee Shop.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Let's look into that. Absolutely.
Outdoors.
If you could shoot me an email on that would be great.
I would be happy to.
That'll be
great. Thank you very, very much. Sorry, everybody, I took up so much time today.
No, it's fine. We survived. So, okay, yay, Carol. So, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, we have another question from Herbert Thornton.
Hi, Herbert.
He wants to know, who's your favorite sci-fi novelists and short story authors?
That's very interesting. There's a bunch of people I like. Ray Bradbury. I love The Martian Chronicles, and Fahrenheit 451 is great. The short story writers, I was very fond of Robert Sheckley's work in the 50s. I liked Andy Weir. I liked The Martian. I haven't liked his other books as well. It's always sort of like what I'm reading at any given time. I'm usually reading several books simultaneously. I'm enjoying this book, which is Swastika Night, which was actually written by a British female science fiction writer in 1935, about if the Nazis won and conquered the world 700 years from now, what would it be like? And it's an amazing book, really a terrific book, Swastika Night. So but there's science fiction is one of the few genres where the short story is still extremely alive and kicking. And there's a lot of really strong writers in that form. So I keep coming across people I like. Jorge Luis Borges, of course, is a great short story writer. Harlan Ellison did some really good work. There's a bunch of folks. Ted Sturgeon, of course, was quite wonderful. It's just and Philip K. Dick, of course. He's variable, but at his best, he's really great. So that's some of it. So let's see now, David Bartlett, you're back. So Robert is going to want to be signed up for the table email and so forth. So you guys need to connect up. Why don't we take your turn, David, since you're back?
Sure.
Good.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Bartlett. I am a filmmaker, what else am I? A teacher, and a human rights activist, and a producer of Space Command.
Yay!
Yes, Space Command is gearing up. That means there's lots of available slots for people to volunteer and have paid positions.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a minute. So my background as a filmmaker is I started making films when I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
I did more work in high school and did every play that I could possibly do, including building sets and co-starring in the musical The Music Man. I played Marcellus Washburn, which is Buddy Hackett's part in the movie. I am the hero's best friend. I am the guy that will stand by the hero no matter what. I am the comic sidekick, and I get killed at the end of the second act, unless it's a comedy, and then I am not really dead. So that's my part. And the films that I like to make are along the lines of making sure that people are getting along and they get over their troubles and stripes, and they have, some kind of accord that they can have with each other, along those kinds of lines too. So I have always wanted to gravitate towards films like that when I write them or produce them or whatever. So I said, I have to go to Hollywood. That's just all there is to it. So I moved here in 1980, and I started right away working on some very big films as an apprentice to the director. I worked on 2 films in a row. I worked with Steve Rash on Under the Rainbow with Chevy Chase and Carrie Fisher and 50 Little People. At the time, they were called Midgets and Dwarfs. And then I worked on a short film made for the Motion Picture Home Hospital, which is the only insurance and health agency in the U.S. that was formed by the industry it came from, which is fascinating to me. It's still alive and kicking to this day. So the director who made the short film promo for that was Robert Wise. Robert Wise directed and produced The Sound of Music and West Side Story and a lot of other awesome films. And he was also the editor of Citizen Kane. So he was my first advisor. And I started working in independent low budget films, building sets at first with Jim Cameron, the production designer, who later became James. And he was engaged to Gail Ann Hurd, and they made a couple little films called Terminator and Terminator 2 in the Abyss. So I started working in sound design, and I got a couple of really big jobs right away on films called, Pulp Fiction and Speed and Total Recall and Predator 2 and a bunch of films like that. And so then I started working more back in editing, which I've always loved. And I started making my own films and working on other people's films. Now I have 65 film festival awards. Cool. So if you ever have any questions about kind of anything with filmmaking, but especially how to be in festivals and win awards, I've gotten pretty good at that. In fact, the film that I did recently has now just been announced that it's in the Burbank Film Festival. So that's a cool entry. That'll be screened. It's called Land of the Free, and it's a story of abused and killed animals for trophy hunting in Africa that are endangered species. So I'm a big animal lover too, so that fits with me. So let's see. I always try to tell a new story. I'm not sure I have a new story.
And that's fine. If you don't, I mean.
So is that just too much time? I should just not tell my story.
Well, I mean, if it's like if you want to talk about, something. I mean, you can, but whatever you'd like. You have the floor.
I could talk about Space Command.
Yes.
Space Command has cool stuff happening that I'm involved with directly that I've loved for a long time, which is some aspects of production design, which is designing and building sets and repurposing sets from other movies. We do that a lot on Space Command. Mark loves to go out and what they call in the fishing industry.
Oh, look out.
Trawling and trolling, which are synonymous, by the way.
Yes.
Where you basically throw a long fishing line in the water with all kinds of bait, and you wait for 4 or 5 hours and pull in what you have, and that's what you eat for the night or sell. So we do that with sets.
Yes.
We find out other sets that are out there. We find old televisions on the street, or white leather chairs,
Yes.
or I should say Mark finds them and I come and pick them up.
Yeah, medical
We
equipment.
say, okay, yeah. So we say, well, let's pull these together and make spaceship sets out of them. And that's what we've been doing.
Uh-huh.
So we have quite a few spaceship sets from other movies and our own movies that have been rebuilt and repurposed and lit differently with computer screens and graphics and whatnot. And in the process of getting those all ready to do a big shoot, which happens every other weekend, probably starting in a few weeks, for about 5 or 6 different shoots. So we'll be doing about, I guess we'll be doing about, 11 scenes worth of sets.
Yeah.
And we're doing very well with the building of those sets and the refurbishing of those sets. So if anyone's interested in helping to finish that off, that would be awesome.
Great.
The big project we have right now, because I'm going from my career into Space Command, that's fine. So the big project we have right now is we're finishing the construction of the studio. We had it built to a certain point and we were using it, but it had to have a modification done, which is going to take a lot of folks helping. And we've already had people like Adam
Yay.
help. We've had people like Michelle Hart help. And we've had Brian Hasek help. And we've had Koshik help. Other people have helped. So we move things from one place to another. When we're done, we're going to have one studio that's entirely scene storage and construction, and the other studio that's entirely filming. And we got a lot done this week on that. So if anybody wants to help in those areas, it would be great. We're in Pico Rivera, and we can go there anytime and do things. So that's kind of where I'm at with Space Command as far as that goes. We're also ending a run of 980 visual effects on episode 2. We're down to the last couple hundred, which to us is like, that's a piece of cake, right? 200 up, we'll be done in a week.
Nothing.
Maybe not, but we are doing well. We're going strongly. We have had a couple meetings even just this week that have been great meetings along these lines. And that's going to get wrapped up soon too. And then we've got a composer waiting in the wings for the block picture. And we'll have some color correction, and we'll have some sound done, and we'll be done by Christmas.
Yay.
That is the goal. That is not some speculative time for the future. That is a date set. So we're going to get that done. We just finished a successful Kickstarter campaign, and we have money from that. And we have all kinds of stuff moving forward with Space Command. So now, if you want to work on Space Command in a paid job, you want to move into a new field that you're not doing currently, which is one of my favorite things to help people with, or if you want to have a volunteer position, some people like volunteering because they can come and go whenever they want, and that works for them. They can also learn what they want to learn and then leave or whatever. So there's all sorts of opportunity here because I'm open to any of it. So you can contact me. My email's in the queue here somewhere. I put it in earlier. davefilms@hotmail.com, DAVEFILMS@hotmail.com. And you can reach me there and we'll get you set up. So the last thing is the table email. I also take care of that. If you are new to the table and need to be on the email, if you're having troubles with your email and you need to have it fixed, you can let me know also at the same address. If you're trying to get onto the table email, you need to have your email with a first and last name of yours without special nicknames or whatever. It has to be very clear who your first and last name are. Numbers are okay. And then not Yahoo. It has to be anything but Yahoo. Gmail's our favorite. But if I have Hotmail, it's fine. Outlook, whatever. So put that together, send it to me in an email, and we'll get you set up.
Great.
And that's, I think, is it.
Yay! 3 cheers. Excellent. Good job. So, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Our next question is from Kevin Scott 76.
Yep.
And he asks, do you have any background music that the characters are listening to in Space Command?
Not that I can think of. We have a score, of course, but I don't have anyone listening to
like say Bach or something.
Yeah, no, we don't. I'd have to think about it. It's a good idea, certainly. I mean, particularly if I have them listening to something that I really like, So, but again, you always have to think about rights payments and all of that, and yeah, I'll give it some thought. It's a good suggestion. So, Mike, let's take you because I know you've been going through stuff.
Oh,
there you go. You got it.
Okay,
Good.
Y'all can hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can.
Well, I just got back from my vacation. 2 months at UCLA.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff has been going on in my own personal life here, as you can probably see. I don't know if you want me to bore you with all the details, but
Well, you can bore us with a
You can
few.
tell some of the details.
okay.
Good
Well,
overview.
The most critical detail is they're not going to put me on a transplant list after all.
No.
Yeah, I know. It has to do with something they didn't expect when they started dealing with my cancer liver. They were supposed to go in there, burn it off, and everything was supposed to be fine. Problem is, there's this particular thing that is not uncommon, but it does happen. Unfortunately, it prevents you from going on the transplant list. And the cancer lesion popped and squirted a bunch of juice into my system.
Oh my God.
So they have to make sure that there was no cancer cells being squirted in my body so that I become riddled with cancer and, die in 3 months. Doctor assured me that I would not die in 3 months.
Good.
He said, don't worry about it. He says, look, Mike, don't torture yourself. Don't do research or self-diagnosis.
Yes.
If you got to look on the internet, look for puppies. Other than that, stay away from the internet. You'll just kill yourself.
Good.
So I have been, right? Okay. So
good.
So right now we're just really working on the cancer.
Good.
As far as my my film goes that I finished, we're entering it in as many festivals as we can. Haven't heard anything back yet.
Great.
Yeah. And I got one more planned for the end of the year. And I keep telling my doctors, you can't let me die until after the first of the year because I got this one more movie I got to make. And they'll say, okay, we'll help you to hang on until then.
Yes.
But this has been it has been a medical education for me, as you could probably guess. I learned a whole lot about cancer.
Yes.
And the amazing thing is, I met people who I have not seen in 30 years.
Wow.
Just out of the blue, they walked into my room. Mike, how you doing?
Wow.
And it's like it's like we never broke friendship or anything. You just come right in and we just start talking, and everything is really nice and wonderful. So it was really nice. So all in all, I'm happy. I worked through my my fear of death. I was really scared, but I talked to a chaplain for several sessions, and we worked through it. So I'm okay with dying now. It doesn't bother me, and I can go on with my life.
Right.
So,
Good.
and so right now, like I said, as soon as we finish the score on my film, because we still got a little bit of music to write. I guess I'm going to start working on my next film.
Cool. That's great.
Yay, okay.
Well, anything you need, let us know. It's good. It's great to see you, of course. And we'll just keep rocking and rolling. So that's but it's really good to see you, Mike. And the table. And again, the table exists. I deliberately designed it so it wasn't just about us when we're all fine, or us just talking about business. It's about us being a community that supports each other through thick and thin, and because that's what life is. And and so it's really good to see you, and just please keep in touch with us and let us know how things are progressing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will.
Well, great. And we're all very eager to see your film when it's done. That's going to be great fun.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we should set up a Zoom screening that the table can watch. I think that'd be really fun. We should definitely do that. I'm sure that David.
Hopefully by the end of July, everything will be all set.
That would be great.
We'll good to go.
That would be super fun.
And
I've seen it. I've seen it. It's pretty good.
That's
great.
And what do we know about Jim? How's Jim doing?
I'm trying to get the Jim to come back home now.
Mm-hmm.
Since I'm home,
Uh-huh.
I got home a couple days ago.
Uh-huh.
I told his daughter, Christy, well, I think it's time for him to come home from the hospital now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to work with her and try and get him back home because, quite frankly, he's really lonely.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he wants to be a family again. He calls me his son.
Yes. Yes.
Which, I don't mind. He's like my dad.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, anything that can help either of you, we
So,
and with your next film, are you going to be able to you're getting some rather phenomenal insights as you pass through this journey. With your next film, will you be able to put share some of that in your next film?
Yes. Everything that has happened to me has really given me some insight into how people react to earth-shattering events.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to help quite a bit when I polish up the script. Because let's face it, what's his name? Who was the existentialist?
Who's the existentialist?
Sartre. Yeah, he's the one.
Okay. I thought you meant the table member who's an existentialist. But okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he said that you only know a person when they go through something really critical.
Yes.
So, you learn and you do.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Thank you, Mark.
Of course.
I really appreciate you. To be honest with you guys, Mark is one of the two most influential people in my life. I don't know how it happened, but it did.
Yes.
So he's a good man. Pay attention to him.
Well, thanks, Mike. It's great to see you. 3 cheers. Yay.
All right.
Yay. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Good to see you, Mike.
Yeah.
Yes, we have another Scott Baker question.
Go for it.
In terms of non-English language sci-fi movies or TV shows,
yes,
what titles may American sci-fi fans have xenophobically passed by, which reach your picks of top-notch scripts or productions?
Well, I really love Solaris, the version that Andrei Tarkovsky did. I think it's terrific. I don't like the one with George Clooney. We just watched an Icelandic TV series called Katla, about a volcano/glacier and people who start coming out of it. That was on Netflix. That was a lot of fun. There's the one about angels in Germany. It was Wings of Desire. That's a great film, wonderful film. There's, so again, there's many. I mean, not necessarily just science fiction and fantasy, but the 8.5 by Fellini is one of my favorite films.
There's that one that I keep raving about, the Oxygen.
Yes, that was fun with Melanie Laurent. But there's just a bunch of stuff. I mean, now thanks to Netflix popularizing foreign television shows and greenlighting foreign television shows, we're now able to watch a much wider variety of stuff. There's a lot of there was a very, very weird German science fiction show from the 60s that was sort of their version of Star Trek. It's very peculiar and rather fun. If Roland Emmerich wanted to remake it at one point, I was brought aboard to look at the possibility of adapting it. But it's like Spaceship Orion, something like that. It's you can find it on YouTube, interestingly enough, and it's pretty distinctive. But there's a ton of stuff. That's just some of it off the top of my head, But definitely Solaris is just great. I watch it every few years. So let's see, Michelle Hart, you're next.
Well, then I better unmute. Well, let's see. First, I am thrilled to see Mike is back and planning the next film, and I'm hoping everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to.
Cool.
So, yay. And let's see, what else is going on? I did probably not that many hours, but it was a very concentrated, not that many hours up in the loft at Space Command, schlepping things from point A to point B.
Thanks.
Very important hours. Very important.
Thank you.
And, well, one of the good things is that Koshek and I are neither one of us is very tall, so we can go up in the loft and stand upright.
Cool.
Yeah, not hit your head on the beams like I do.
Yes.
Yeah, well, Brian was up there and he was going to come down looking like Quasimodo. So we got up there and moved things from point A to point B, and they had a ladder placed so that we could get up there, because this is the one with no staircase.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that they were going to say, well, you can't come down. We're not going to bring the ladder till we've done some more work. Anyway, it was good to get out there and do stuff, and when I have gaps in my time, I will do that.
Thank you.
Got a verification from Carla Lewis's casting office that the background thing that I was working on last week is definitely going. Starting the 7th, there will be 3 or 4 days, and then from the 12th almost to the end of the month. And it's background, but it's SAG, it's work. Yay!
Yeah.
So
Cool.
we're happy working. And of course, there's a humongous NDA on this thing, and so I do know what it is and what it's about now. And all I can tell you is, boy, am I not glamorous. I have my hands are dirty, both front and back, and dirt on my face, a real disgrace. It's something else. I also found out that, strangely enough, whatever the makeup is they're using to dirty me does not come off with oil or soap or combination thereof. You need alcohol.
Oh my God.
And of course, we all washed before lunch, and then our hands look just as filthy as they were before we washed. So it's really weird to see yourself putting food to your mouth with what appears to be absolutely filthy hands. There's a disconnect in your head that you're not supposed to be doing things that way. So that was weird. The rest of life is weird. I have tapped into something called buynothing.com. If any of you are trying to either find odds and ends of pieces of things that you could possibly use, or you have stuff that you want to just give away, the organization is very restricted as to neighbors. I am in the Castle Heights group, and there are very small little groups of things, and you put up a picture of I had some small packets of photographic paper that I got when I bought a printer. Never used them, never going to use them, and I took a picture of them and said, "Does anybody want these?" And somebody came by my front door and took them away. It's something that I would sell on a garage sale or donate to Goodwill or whatever. It's just this thing that I don't need. And there's a lot of, any of you have kids or anything, there's a lot of baby stuff that people outgrow and are being given away. But there's furniture, there's clothing, just assortment of things that are just, come and get it. Just sort of amazing. Other than that, I'm, trying to do the laundry, clean my house, take care of some tax things that I didn't deal with, and keep living.
Cool.
The other thing is, I have actually gone back to a live in-person ballet class, which my body thought was extremely traumatic. There were a couple of people in the class wearing masks. Other people are not. We're taking it for granted. I guess the people who are not masked are vaccinated.
Yes.
Or that everyone's vaccinated. I'm not sure. But it's the usual contingent of all the good-sized group of people in a very large studio. And we are all right next to each other as we would normally be in pre-COVID. So I hope we're all okay.
Oh, that's great. So, well, yeah. Now, also, Michelle, I'm going to be reaching out to that friend of yours who was looking for work. So I will be reaching out to her. So, yeah, she sounded pretty interesting.
Do you have information or do
What was it?
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
What was it? I just want to know what that website was called again.
Which website? Oh, yeah, yes.
Buynothing.com. BUYNHI. buynothing.com.
Buynothing.com. Okay, great. Terrific. Anything
Buy
else?
like purchase, not buy like bye-bye.
Right, yes. So anything else, Michelle?
Do you need Barbara's information again, or do you
No,
have it?
I can find it. It's easy. Yeah, I have it in my email.
Okay.
So thanks. 3 cheers. Yay. Excellent. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yes, we have another Scott Baker question.
Great.
Interesting question. Do actors get writing credit when they improvise?
No, generally not. Generally not. No, and it's interesting, particularly with Mike Lee's films, because he spent 6 months with his actors improvising to arrive at a script. I don't think they usually get credited. So it's wacky, but
Well, he's usually like one line here and there. It's not like they're writing the whole script.
Yes, but I've learned to, the way I work is I like actors to do the lines the way they're written, but then if they want to take a run at something that's got a variation to it, or if they have trouble saying it and ask me beforehand if they can change it in a certain way, that's fine. It's often you find some pretty fun stuff that way.
If any of you are old enough to have seen Ordinary People with Donald Sutherland, directed by
Robert
Redford,
Mm-hmm.
there's a scene in which he's confronting his wife, understanding that she never loved him.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert Redford wanted it to be like where he's just really contained and holding everything back. And Sutherland said, no, he'd be crying. And Redford said, no, that's not, he's not the kind of guy. And he said, his whole life is coming apart. Everything he thought he had in life is coming apart. He'd be crying.
Right.
And so they shot it both ways. And of course, Sutherland was right.
Yes. And there you go. Okay. And so great. Yay. So 3 cheers. And did we get to our Mr. Sci-Fi question? I don't remember it all. Oh, yes. I have used improvisation.
That was the Mr. Sci-Fi
That was the Mr. Sci-Fi question. Great. Mark Gushowitz, the man with the hat like mine. There we go.
Hello.
Hello.
I just want to clarify from somebody from the East Coast. You said New Yorkers aren't rude. They are not rude. They're honest.
Yes.
And there's a difference.
Direct. Yes.
You'll never get a New Yorker to talk behind your back. They'll say what they mean to your face, which makes them a lot more trustworthy.
Yes.
You always know where you stand.
No. Yeah. Exactly. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. How are you doing?
Okay. I am doing okay. It was a really hard week for me this week. I'm supposed to put my website up tomorrow, but then my client came out of the woodwork and kept me working like 12-hour days.
Wow.
It really sucks. But I'm going to add, at the end of all this, I'm going to ask a favor of everybody whose faces I see that will help move this process forward. Mm-hmm. And even though my website is not going to be there tomorrow, I am going to be either tomorrow or Saturday putting up my Facebook group and my Twitter page, and at least moving forward with all that stuff to kind of make people aware of it. I also had some technical glitches with my website because I had licensed some WordPress plugins and I was using them under a generic name. And then when I came up with the real name, I connected them to that, but I couldn't use any of them because they were licensed to the other name. And so I spent quite a bit of time figuring that out because I didn't have another, $60, $100 to spend.
Right.
So hopefully that'll all work well. My film, I'm considering it pretty much done. A slight color correction left. I gave Earl 2 more notes, only 2 more notes in the sound though, which he agreed with, and so he's working on. We're just waiting to hear back from where I'm going to go to a sound mix place down here to adjust audio levels and stuff. And that guy's computer kind of took a spill. And it didn't fall over; it just kind of crashed, and so he's in the process of getting that fixed. So as soon as that is fixed, we're mixing this thing, and we are done. Right, Earl? Shake your head. Yes. So that's good news because I have my main deadline. The one deadline I want to meet is Screamfest, and that's on the 15th of this month. So there is that. Like I said, I've got a client who's come out of the woodwork and is working me to death, but he pays by the hour, so I'm going to only smile at the fact that he's working me to death.
Cool.
And it looks like it's going to be regular work, as I've said over the last couple of weeks. The favor that I'm asking is this. My website, it was going to go up. It was going to have 8 reviews because I don't want any reviews getting buried by putting too much up at once. But I was always kind of thinking, God, is 8 enough? But I am going to have a page on my website called Fan Reviews. And it was going to have a big coming soon thing on the page until I got enough. And I decided I have a week. I'm going to reach out to people and see if they want to help me with this. And on the fan reviews page, what I'm asking people to do, and this is not only you guys, but friends, and then when the podcast is out and the website's out, anybody who wants to send me anything. If you could think of a movie that you think is underseen or unseen, just write me 1 to 4 sentences.
Great.
To get that movie, and it doesn't have to be a movie I like. As Mark said, it doesn't matter if I like it or not. This is the fans' recommendations.
Yes.
It can be any movie from any time period of any kind, as long as, number one thing, it has to be streamable on one of the bigger platforms like Amazon or Vudu.
Yes.
Because you can't recommend a movie and then have people not be able
to watch it. Yes.
So,
I agree.
That's the only thing. And so I'm putting it out there. A couple weeks ago, Mark, you and Elaine weren't here. We were talking about my website, and just people were throwing names out at me. So instead of just throwing names out at me, say, throw a name out at me. I'll put my email in the chat when we're done. Throw the name out at me, but in 1 to 4 sentences, say, why do you think people should see this? Like, if you were going to pitch this movie to someone, what would you say to them to make them go and watch it?
Yes.
And once again, you could put up a movie that I absolutely hate. You could say, you could just, like, literally, I could read and go, man, I hate this movie, but this page isn't about me.
Right.
It's about the people, and then if I can get like 7 or 8 of these up there on the same day that I release, now I've got a much fuller website. And the only coming soon page that'll be there is the podcast, which will be up 2 weeks after launch.
Cool.
And I should also say this to Mike, because I haven't talked to Mike in a while. I'm working on color correction on his. It's going a little slow because of the other project, but I've been keeping up to date with Dave Edison, who I got to get it to make sure that when everything else comes through, it will be done for you.
Great.
So,
great.
All right.
Terrific.
I think that's kind of it for me. I'll put my my information in the chat. Oh, and also, if you guys want to start looking around Saturday for the Facebook group page to kind of write on the wall or whatever they call it nowadays, it's going to be Underexposed Cinematic Treasures.
Great. Terrific. 3 cheers. Yay. So,
Mark?
Yes.
I did a little research about this improvisation thing. It's a kind of film that I've looked into quite a bit for myself to do.
Yes.
And there was a film called Before Sunrise, which had Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, and there was a lot of improv in it.
Yes.
But it was largely written by Richard Linklater and another writer. But then when they went to make the 2 sequels, the 3 of them are credited as writers.
That's great. And
Before Sunset and Before Midnight.
Yeah, and I can recommend that trilogy. It's really quite something, and they do a great job. So, yeah, great, terrific. So, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yes, we have a question from Mark Lungo. Oh, and Mark Agushwitz, I do have one such film in mind. I'll send you a couple sentences.
I look forward to it.
Yes.
And it is on Netflix. I just checked.
Yes. And, and by the way, Adam, before you jump in with that, I just came across this there was a guy on the internet recommending quote unquote bad films that he actually loves, and he mentioned one that I hadn't heard of that actually looked pretty fun. So I've actually ordered it on VHS, which is the only format that it's available in on eBay. And we all remember That's Entertainment, which was a retrospective of MGM's great days. So they did a satire called That's Adequate, about Adequate Studios, which is supposedly sort of this mid-range studio of the golden era, and it stars James Coco playing the studio head, and it's got Bruce Willis and Robert Downey Jr. and other stars in it. So I'll let you know it's going to be coming. I'm going to have to hook up the VHS player again, but that should be a lot of fun. So
I want to see it just based on the title.
Yes. It's great. So thanks a lot. And yes, the Mr. Sci-Fi question.
Yes.
Oh, Michelle. Wait. Michelle had a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Michelle.
I'm sure you know about Miracle Pictures. The slogan was, "If it's a good picture, it's a miracle."
Yes. That's really fun. But the interesting thing about the guys behind the major studios in the golden age of Hollywood, is some of them were terrible people. I mean, everyone really loathes Harry Cohn, who was the head of Columbia Pictures, but of course the great Frank Capra films were made there, etc. So and the more you learn about Louis B. Mayer, the less you like him. But it's just but it's still they were movie makers to the soles of their feet, and they were just amazing. They created amazing works. But go ahead. Yes, what's the Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
So the Mr. Sci-Fi question.
Oh, Jesus.
Can I add something to bad movies?
Yes.
Hold on.
Jesus.
Back in my early days of stand-up comedy, one of the a comedian who had done a project for his NYU course in film did a picture called King of the Z's. Z as in not even a B studio, a Z studio.
Yes.
And the film got him his job writing on the early days of Late Night with David Letterman. And the film starred Calvert DeForest, featured Calvert DeForest, who was discovered from that film, who went on to become Larry Bud Melman. Huh. So essentially, this guy changed Calvert DeForest's life.
Wow.
And I believe it's on YouTube, and it's worth seeing. It's a short film. It's worth seeing. It's called King of the Z's.
Cool. That's great. Thanks. So is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam, before we
yes.
go down another area? Yes.
Mark, another question from Mark Lungo.
Great.
And he asks, what did you think of Emrys and Erex from Star Trek The Animated Series?
They were okay. I mean, he's talking about the alien crew members. There was one who had 3 arms. They were okay. I mean, the problem I have with that show is that, they had James Doohan and Majel Barrett and Nichelle Nichols and George Takei doubling for the other voices. And James Doohan was pretty good at it, but Nichelle Nichols wasn't, and some of the others wasn't. So it started, some of the voices started to sound very repetitive. But it's still a fun show, and it certainly had high ambitions. So, and I think one of the fan films did a CG version of that character, but I can't recall where I saw that. But it was interesting to see it. So let's see. I guess Earl, you're next on my screen.
Hello, everybody. Earl F. Smith, composer, sound designer. I think I have everybody beat as far as being a part of the worst film ever made. Vegas Vampires.
Oh, man.
Okay. Vegas Vampires. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark, I'll send you an email on that. Music of mine that I wrote that did with some rappers actually sampled something, so never got my permission, but yet my music ended up on that film.
Wow.
But terrible film.
Yes.
Anyways, so yeah, we're pretty much done with Mark's film.
Great.
Yay. I've done a mixed, and he wants to make some changes at my buddy's studio down there in Granada Hills. I'll be coming down on the 18th to do an ADR session. I did want to give word. I did meet with the UC Davis composition advisor a week ago after donating some money to his fundraiser. And the conversation started off basically saying, I wanted to see what I can do to get you to reapply. So he asked me to reapply for the following year and gave me basically all the formula of what to do, what the music they want to hear, what they look for in the statement of purpose, and to build a relationship with some of the faculty composers there by sending emails. So I thought it was a very positive meeting. He got me excited. He also indicated that the music that I'll be writing, he sent me 7 examples to ask for letters of recommendation from those that are involved in those pieces. Mark and Elaine, I may actually take you up, and Adam may take you up on letters of recommendation.
Sure. Happy
so I was involved in Space Command.
Yeah.
With
Absolutely.
con stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. You kind of blew off our lunch date.
Not very reliable.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
man.
sorry. You know, I woke up at 2:00 and then I saw the message.
No, man,
No,
oh,
it's
man.
fine. Yeah, I'll totally let me know and I'll totally write you one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So that was very positive meeting.
Good.
And through that, I was introduced to a couple other things that are happening up here. So, you know, all it takes is that one in. And I believe this is that one in.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Had a meeting with the dean of Sac State. I was pretty shocked about that. Little do they know and how much they rely on people they call expertise, in my opinion, really are not. But whatever. So that's about it with me. Great week, busy month. Looking forward to come down to LA on the 18th.
Swell.
Get some work done, and yeah.
Okay. Yay! 3 cheers, Earl. So, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Our next question is from, I think, a new watcher, Apartment 906.
Yay!
Who's a Twilight Zone aficionado.
Yes.
And wants to know, what is your favorite episode of the Twilight Zone?
Probably Walking Distance. It was Rod's favorite. It's a great episode. It's just gorgeous in pretty much every way. Visually, the Bernard Herrmann score is great. Gig Young is great. The writing is just spectacular. Rod Serling's ending narration is just as close to poetry as anyone who's ever written in television, and good poetry. It's interesting. Galenda was just watching Time Enough at Last with Burgess Meredith, which is a good episode, very good episode. Kick the Can, I love. Miniature with Robert Duvall is really strong. Death Ship, I really love. There's so many. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, In Praise of Pip is great. You know, It's a Good Life. There's many, many great episodes. And you know, it's there's an embarrassment of riches on the Twilight Zone. So yeah. So let's see. So David Goldenholtz, you're next on my screen. Oh, we can't hear you. Unmute. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. You can hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So, been sort of busy this month.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working on a few productions, a few movies, doing sound and doing sound mixing. And that's what I do. I do sound mixing.
Sure.
I do some voiceover, and well, that's what I do. I occasionally do editing, but that's not my. It's not something that I'm very strong in. My strength is mainly sound mixing, and yeah. So this month I just got into a few movies, and it was good times.
Cool.
But that's why I haven't been here. And also, I do have a question for you. And congrats on the 40th. I think you said the 40th.
44th. We've been together 45 years and married for 44. Yep. Pretty exciting.
But so my question for you is, what's your favorite Alice in Wonderland?
My favorite Alice in Wonderland? You mean in terms of adaptations?
Yes.
I don't think there's really been a great one, frankly. Linda Wolverton managed to sort of put a wacky plot onto her version, but I know why it's never been done well, or one reason why, which is that there are two different kinds of children's stories. There are one that present a comforting world in which there's basically, things turn out fine. And, Wizard of Oz is a great example of that. But Alice in Wonderland is a very malevolent story. I mean, she's really menaced, and the people who she meets along the way are not. I mean, if they're friendly to her, it's this very cold friendliness that you cannot rely on because it can turn and bite you, you know. And it's a very difficult thing to adapt. That said, I haven't seen some of the major versions. There's a version that was done with puppets by these two brothers from Eastern Europe. You know, there's a variety of ones that have been done. But do you have a favorite one, David?
I saw this one that was, it wasn't a favorite, but I saw one that was more odd.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that Eastern Europe one. It was with the taxi.
Yes.
I think you know the one that I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, it was odd, but it was kind of intriguing at the same time.
Yes.
Because
people say that about me too.
So I was kind of like, yeah, this is different. It's odd, and
yes, it's very difficult to adapt. And they did a version in the 30s that had a lot of stars in it, but the makeup was so heavy on them you couldn't recognize any of them. So it was kind of that's what actually led MGM, when it did Wizard of Oz, to have much less heavy makeup on the actors, so they would be recognizable as the actors that they were. And that's a real balancing act. So it's. I mean, it's very interesting to watch the one from, I think it was 1933. It had W.C. Fields in it and Cary Grant and a bunch of other actors. I think Paramount made it. There were also silent versions as well. There's a lot of adaptations of it. Sure. Yes, Dave.
How about from the 1960s? What's a Nice Kid Like You doing in a place like this? The animated version, I think, was on ABC. I forgot the animation studio.
Yeah,
like Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah,
it's also available on YouTube. Pretty trippy.
Well, there you go. And yeah, and
so you didn't see it?
No, I haven't seen that one. And there was one with Peter Sellers in it as well, and Richard Burton's daughter. So I think Richard Burton played the elderly knight in it. But again, I like the book. I like Alice in Wonderland, and also Alice Through the Looking Glass. Tenniel, I think, is a brilliant illustrator. And of course, all of it was being done as political satire. And so if you realize that, then you can say, oh, well, that the Mad Hatter's obviously Disraeli and so on and so forth. But, and again, the reason he's a Mad Hatter is because people who made hats back then worked with mercury, and it frequently drove them crazy in time. And that's why the phrase Mad as a Hatter came into prominence. And that's why he's called the Mad Hatter. So there you go. A little interesting side note. So anything else, David?
No, that was all.
Cool. Yay. 3 cheers. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam.
Yes. As for Alice in Wonderlands, I'm partial to the 70s one done by Disney, live action with Carol Channing as the White Queen.
Huh. That's fun.
Jam yesterday, jam tomorrow, but never jam today.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
So
Perfect.
we have another Scott Baker question.
Yes.
Who asks, would you consider non-human, i.e. animal actors, as sentient characters? Nothing comical, but a serious, earthborn, non-human characters, perhaps wearing a translator amulet or necklace.
That's tricky. I mean, the aliens we have in Space Command are very inhuman, but to have, I mean, it's very difficult to take an animal and make it a sentient character in that way. Elaine has a great movie that she wants to do that has a mastiff in it, and that would be terrific. But I just think you have to be very, very careful of what the effects you're going after. And as you say, you don't want it to be goofy or silly. I mean, talking dolphins. There was a movie called Day of the Dolphin, and it was didn't make the grade in many ways. So let's see. So now I guess Galinda, I guess you're up next, and you're in your cat outfit. So please go ahead. Oh, you have to unmute. There you go.
Okay, yeah, I'm doing this on my phone because I decided to try to avoid using my work computer.
Yes, good.
and for non-work stuff. And my my PC has Windows 7 on it right now, so I have the adjustments to make today. I love that you noticed. That is Time Enough at Last is one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes.
It's great. It's great.
I figured having something in my background, since my phone won't do the Zoom backgrounds, would be good. Hey, you know what? As a child, I may have had horrible movie taste, but I thought The Day of the Dolphin was great. I haven't watched it since I was about 8 years old, but I thought it was fantastic at the time.
Yes, that's fun.
I don't. It's really just the same old. I've been dusting off my old that old project and trying to work out rewriting it. I've got to change a few names and locations to make it make sense. But what I kind of want to ask from a writing standpoint, when you're trying to, I wrote it in first person because it was a diary to begin with.
Sure.
And it's not always comfortable to write in first person because I try to avoid self-aggrandizing kind of things. And, you know, it's really easy to paint yourself look wonderful and everybody else is the bad guys. But it's not working to change it because the diary format of it.
Sure.
So, you know, at this point, I'm thinking maybe I should just, you know, kind of leave it as is and do the edits that I had already planned, just to make a short story. Do you think that's probably wisest? I mean, because when I wrote it, I was in a major stage of depression and rage, and you know, I turned my ex and my ex new best friend into zombies.
Well, there you
and
go.
Took them out of my life, and it was very cathartic writing.
Oh, good.
And when I had people read about it, they were like, "You need to write more of this. You need to write more." And I'm like,
"Oh, good."
Suddenly, I'm in a good place in my life. I'm not fueled by all this rage.
Good.
And it's hard to pick it back up and get back into that mode.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you don't have to do what your friends say. You know, that's a good piece of advice. And but I frequently find the first person actually is stronger than third person because it is a feeling of someone writing directly to you, talking to you. John Wyndham, who wrote The Midwich Cuckoos, which was made into Village of the Damned, and a number of other novels, his first person narrators were great, and I really like his writing in first person better than in third person. You know, I would keep it in first person, but if it's not a place that you're in now, you know, do what you can to make that piece work where you might be able to get it out into the world, but don't, you know, it's really important to not be tethered to the goals or guidelines of a previous version of yourself, you know, because particularly if it's a toxic place, you don't want to spend a lot of time in that place. You know, if you're feeling better, stick with that, you know. You know, there's a lot of different ways to write a good story, and the question always is, am I writing my truth, my emotional truth? And you know, and that's the key question. It's very funny. I recently found out that the novel Jane Eyre was actually fan fiction, which I did not know. It turned out that Jane Austen was in love with this professor who was happily married, so she wrote this fan fiction making him like have a crazy wife in the attic who dies in a fire, and then he's actually in love with Jane, who represents, you know, Miss Bronte herself. And so it was very funny to hear that it was her fantasy, you know, revenge tale against this guy's wife, and so that's very, very fun.
But it's not on there. I'm not saying that yours is this, but a lot of people after a recent breakup, whether it was a marriage or a friendship, they don't have the perspective they're going to have as a person, and they sort of spew out the worst of the worst. You know, they're just talking about rage. They're not talking about the complexity of the situation. And so sometimes it doesn't resonate as much as it could if a little time had passed and there was a little more perspective on it. So trust if you have growing perspective, trust that. I mean, there can be those terrible moments, but then if you have reflective moments following that, don't ignore those, because that may really enrich your narrative.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So
thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, this writing the story was letting me move from hoping he died in a chemical fire to be okay with him living through one.
Yes, that's good.
Good.
So anything else for now?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Much love, y'all.
3 cheers. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam.
Yes, we have a question from Bob Rich.
Hello, Bob.
In storytelling, how can writers avoid the obvious, honoring the audience's intelligence, inviting viewers or readers to participate, challenging the audience rather than pandering to them?
Yeah. That's the trick. That's why they pay us the big bucks. You know, it's the real, never assume your audience is dumber than you are. That's the real trick. Life magazine had a great motto in its heyday, which was never underestimate the intelligence of your readers, nor overestimate their information. So in other words, you tell them, you inform them, but you never talk down to them. You never assume they know everything that you know. So you know, for me, my audience is the same as me. I don't assume anything differently. So I know if I'm writing something that interests me, something that engages me, something that enthuses me, the likelihood is strong that my audience will like it, and that's how I operate.
If you look at good writing in the same way as good acting, there's a thing called indicating, and if you're an actor, bad acting is that, oh, I have to be angry, so I'm gonna tighten my fists and tighten my jaw, and I'll seem angry. And if you're not indicating, that outer eye of looking at yourself being angry goes inside, and you simply react to what's giving you pain. And it doesn't matter how it comes out. If you're really feeling it, there's a truth to it. So one of the best ways not to pander is not to think, what kind of an effect am I going to have here, and how can I maneuver my audience there? It's to speak your truth. And it's to speak your reflective truth, where you've come up with answers that are really valid to you, or even passionate questions that you're so passionate about. So the more that you speak your current truth, the less likely you are to be pandering.
Okay, yeah, I like that. So, okay, good. So let's see. So Satya, I guess you're next.
Hi, guys. Hi, Mark. I had a very eventful week, good and bad.
Okay.
But I don't know, it's yin and yang or something. But I made notes. I put in my phone so I don't forget when it's my turn. I've been with the table for I don't know how many years, and I said to my mind, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna see if I can find a way to collaborate with people that post, and I'll try to. And so I was able to work with Brad Buckland. I did a music video with him, so that was fun.
Cool.
And then my girls sketch comedy group got into the Burbank Comedy Festival. So we're gonna try that out. Yeah. And then I got to volunteer with Space Command, so that was a lot of fun.
Great. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I enjoyed all of David's stories and hanging out with Adam as well. And they feed you well, in case you're wondering.
Cool.
I had good food.
Good.
I just came from a clown photo shoot. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but the photographer already sent me some photos, and this is one that's kind of cool. I was a clown.
How fun.
And her vision was like someone who was depressed. So, and then I had a second look when I'm trying to still pick pictures, but that's the other clown look.
Wow, Jesus. Yikes. Cool.
It was inspired by my favorite TV show that is now gone. It's called Manifest.
Yes.
I just discovered it. I don't know why I found out about now. I finally finished binge watching it. Yeah. I have two questions. One is, I was curious if you ever received my email. I also asked you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just behind the play, and so I just have to catch up. I mean, be a squeaky wheel, that's fine. It's just been busy, you know, finishing the book and the Kickstarter campaign and blah blah blah. So my days are rather like being in a cyclotron. But yes, I would definitely want to follow up. So yes, we'll be in continuing conversation on that. Absolutely.
Cool.
Sure.
I just want to make sure you got it.
Yeah. Thanks.
I don't know why my emails kept not coming through, so I'm glad that you finally got it.
Yeah. Great.
And second is, I'm wondering, how do people, like, I know we always have tons of ideas and tons of things we want to do as projects. How do you like figure out what to do for a second? Because I always feel like if I want to do that project, then I feel like I'm left out not doing that project. So I have like several ideas I do want to work on by myself.
Sure. the way you
I'm
do
having
it,
trouble with that.
well, you could do it like an eye examination. You know, when they put the lenses in front of you, you say better or worse, better or worse. So you start with the first two and you say, which of these do I feel more strongly about? And then you slide the other one over. Then you get the next one up, and then it's like, which of these two do I feel more strongly about? And you do that until you basically put them in order of your enthusiasm. And that's a good place to start. Also, I often ask, which gives me the most power? In other words, if my goal is to get my work out to my audience, then I have to have power over it to make sure it gets there. And so that's how rising up to a showrunner it was important, and rising up, you know, as a director and all of that, having my own studio. These are all toward the goal. And the more I don't have to ask permission, the more I just say, okay, this is what I'm doing, and, you know, thanks for all your help, you know, the better. And but because 99.9% of people are endlessly talking about what they want to do, but only a very small percentage are actually doing it, you know. And once you decide to do something, and once you decide you're not going to be stopped, and then it becomes totally about just pulling it all together, you know. And that's why in the new book, in Greenlighting Yourself, I talk a lot about when various people I know have hit obstacles and how they dealt with it. And I mean, even people like Guillermo del Toro or Damon Lindelof, or, you know, whomever, you know, they have those moments. But what differentiates them from most people is that they just didn't stop. They found the way to make stuff happen. And that's really important.
I was trying to find your book, but I'm not sure if I'm typing it out right.
Wait,
or
Greenlighting Yourself?
Yeah.
It's not
Greenlighting Yourself.
Greenlighting.
Okay.
It's not out yet. I just finished. It's my publisher's reading the manuscript now, so it'll be out as soon as it's out. I'll announce, and everyone can get the book and the T-shirt. So so great.
So do you mention your mantra from your Star Trek?
Yes, I do. When I was doing the Star Trek episode with George Takei, it was a very difficult shoot, and my mantra to myself was, "I am made of iron, and nothing will stop me." And I had to really, really, really embrace that, and I found it very helpful, because I'm when I'm doing things, I'm totally committed to it. And as Dave knows, as all of my team knows, it's like, you know, we're getting where we're going, you know. So that's just how it works, you know. And it's neat. So anything else, Satya?
Yeah, I was curious of, like, how do you create realistic timelines when you create projects? I'm like, okay, this is the amount of time I write, this is the amount of time at this and that. Yes. I'm a little trying to figure out the producing aspect of how to put things together.
Generally, generally something will take as long as the time you allow it to take. So if it's a tight timeline, then it's all hands on deck. Usually having something be kind of very long term is a bad idea, particularly if it has no deadlines, no end date, because then it just stretches off forever, and often it doesn't get done. That's why I always set deadlines for what I'm doing. You have to.
And if you're under particular pressure, like when he was needing to write samples but was doing full-time with animation and wanted to get into live action.
Yes.
He had no problem writing the live action, but it was exhausting because he had a full-time job. So he took a class at UCLA, and the instructor said, "Wait, you have more experience than I. What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm getting a deadline."
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you just need an external deadline. And it's always good to have a little bit of input, but sometimes it's important because you can get stuck on like little minutia. Yeah. If you get stuck on minutia, you should just put a little MB by that. Make better,
yeah.
Make better later, and just go on so you can get your arc, your overview of what you're trying to say, and then start fixing it. But the more you set yourself deadlines, the less you can get your shoelaces tied together, and it's not perfect yet, blah, blah, blah. But you can't know if it's going to be good or not until you get to the end, because you don't get a sense of that arc or what's missing. But once you get to the end, then you can do your multiple passes, like one pass for, does the plot make sense? Mm-hmm. Second pass, does each character have an interesting journey?
Yeah, these are all,
And then the third is like, does the theme carry through, or does it start to contradict itself? But you can't fix a blank page.
Yes, but also beyond that, surround yourself with people who are really getting the job done. Because if you surround yourself with people who are just full of shit, it just makes it lots harder.
Yeah.
And the good part, see, I'm very glad that I came up in TV rather than in movies, because Elaine and I can write very, very quickly when we need to, and we also, have taught ourselves a lot of things about production and so forth. But, Elaine had drama school and got an education. It was in New York. And so she really learned how to direct much, because I never learned how. I just, shoot my cuffs. But but in television as a writer, you have to be able to turn it around really quickly. I mean, if you can't do a script in a weekend, when the clock is really ticking, then you gotta reconsider your choices.
But just something that you have to be wary of are very charming dilettantes.
Well, a dilettante is a big word, but it means someone who's dipping a toe into something but really isn't serious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else?
One last question.
Yeah.
How often can one follow up? Like, for example, our case, you shared that you're running behind all that. So what's
You mean following up with me?
Yeah, like if, for example, like if I want to follow up with people?
Well, you have a choice.
How
You
often?
can yeah.
Sorry.
Well, it can either be every few minutes or once every decade. The real answer to that is usually about every other week. Is about right. I mean, find out from people when they find out from them when they can get to something, and then just follow up.
Yeah,
and
I always say, what's a good time to follow up?
Yes.
And then I'll follow up, but it won't be just about, did you read it? Did you read it? If I'm following up, I'll say, oh, I was thinking of you because this and this happened. I thought it would be like this great story. And by the way, where does my request stand in your pile? What's a good time to check back? So even if they swore to me that it would be done on Monday, I would just say, how is it coming? I'd never hold them to it. And so it would always be, and what's a good time to follow up? And again, I wouldn't be a broken record. I would always think of something interesting or funny or something to say, and then say, how's it going? And be endlessly forgiving of the fact that they thought they'd get to it, but did not.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Okay, cool. Great. Free cheers. Yay. So Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, we have another Scott Baker question.
Great.
He wants to know, what is the progress on Sweet Haven?
Good question.
And when can he plan to bring his mom down for her walk-on role?
Yes.
She's a retired dental hygienist. Maybe she can clean teeth.
Yes. Or we have a scene where someone goes off about a 3-story balcony. Maybe she'd like to try stunts. So, but seriously, Sweet Haven, we've written the script. We've laid out the first season. We've had 2 table reads via Zoom with our actors. Now it's just we're actively pitching it. We're getting ready to go into Amazon with the Showrunners Network, laying track for that, laying track for going into the CW with the Showrunners Network. But also David Bartlett and I have been talking about when we're actually going to start shooting, and that should be sooner rather than later, I think. So I think, because we're just kind of, we have so much spare time. We have so much time where we're just, not at full capacity. So that's a bit of a joke, but I very much want to get it done sooner rather than later. I'd like to be an active production on all 6 of those shows, frankly, and I think it's possible. So that's it. Yeah. So great. So now I think it is, if I'm not mistaken, is Elaine. Wonderful Elaine. Yay. 3 cheers. Go for it, Elaine. Go for it.
Oh, okay.
Tell them all the great news.
Well, one just of concern. Thank you so much for anybody who may have ideas as to where we may move our operation, because we did just find out that in terms of the table,
You mean move the table, not our studio?
No.
Yes.
Move the table where we might, because there are several things that make it a little challenging. You want decent food that's not going to break the bank. We don't have an incredibly rich group of people. And that is in a safe area with parking especially for the women, but a safe area, and that would have economically wouldn't mind filling a room and having sufficient staff to feed a large number of people. So we're looking for that space, and we're going to be looking at a number of spaces. And the other thing to consider, if you have any ideas to ship along your thoughts, which is integrating the Zoom component into a meeting. Because we have people who really cannot come conveniently, like people in New York and Chicago, to the meeting, but we hate to cut them out. But
Yeah.
what would be wise ways to integrate
Okay.
a Zoom section?
But how are you doing, and what are you up to?
Just right now, I'm on the money hunt. So
Well,
I've got a bit of a team, and I have several possibilities, and several scripts depending on where I get my funding. But just eager to start to move forward with production. So I've got a few things, and you'll certainly hear if the money moves.
Yes. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
So is there another Mr. Sci? Yay, Elaine! 3 cheers, Elaine! Is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Sorry, had a little thing went down the wrong pipe.
Okay. We can give you a Zoom Heimlich.
Right. Let's see. There we go. I don't think we do.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's okay. Well, then it's me, wonderful me. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So I'm going to interpret Elaine's turn for her because she doesn't too often ring her own bell enough. So essentially what's going on is that we're very, very actively working on Space Command in terms of the visual effects, in terms of post-production, in terms of all that stuff. Our Kickstarter campaign of a few weeks ago was successful. So we're now, we've been in conversations with our VFX team, with our creature maker, with David Rakelin, who's doing our score and hiring live musicians. We have been allocating funds toward that with David Bartlett, and it's very, very active right now. Our studio is up and running. Meantime, Elaine has our development executive in London, who we should send money to, is she alerted us to this grant that Unreal Engine is doing. Unreal Engine is a VFX and rendering platform, basically, and they are allocating $100 million in grants of up to $500,000 each. So we are going to be applying for one of those $500,000 grants for a feature of Elaine's called Ashes, which takes place on a planet that's being terraformed. And it's got a ton of visual effects and very cool stuff. And we can repurpose a lot of our Space Command set pieces, including the ones from Cloverfield Paradox, to be part of that. So we are going with Mitch Suskin, who's our VFX supervisor / executive producer. We will be going very seriously, going out and applying for that $500,000. At the same time, I've committed to generating $100,000 for Elaine to shoot as much as she can of either Voiceless Roar or Ashes, whatever, it's her pick. And so to do that, I'm launching a Kickstarter campaign in August, a 30-day campaign where I will be doing the Twilight Zone commentaries that I did not do on the Blu-ray. So I did 53 commentaries on the Blu-ray. I'm going to be doing 101 commentaries on the on new ones as audio downloads. I'll be doing 2 live commentaries per week for a year. And if we don't hit $100,000, if we don't clear $100,000 in the campaign, I won't do it. So, but there's really incredible perks from my collection, all sorts of stuff. So we'll be making the official announcement of that very, very soon. But it's going to be really quite amazing. And that would be $100,000 that Elaine could then shoot a good chunk of Voiceless Roar with, or any of her projects. So meantime, Bradley Cooper's development executive is reading one of her screenplays for Bradley Cooper. Stuff is continuing. On my front, I finished Greenlighting Yourself and sent it to my publisher. Hopefully they'll love it. If not, that'll be a bummer. But I like it. I think it reads really well. And beyond that, with Showrunners Network, we're going to be having lunch with Joey Brown, the exec from Amazon, prior to having the entire science fiction team at Amazon meet with us. And we're creating these shows with my friends who have created Farscape, Defiance, Alien Nation, Sequest, The Expanse, wrote Children of Men, wrote Iron Man, executive producer from Pretty Little Liars and many other shows. Emmy winners. We have 2 Emmy winners on our team for Showrunners Network, and so forth. So it's pretty remarkable. So that's some of it. I'm sure I'm forgetting some of it. I just won an auction on eBay. There's a friend of mine who's actually, my portrait of him is somewhere behind me on the wall. Harlan Ellison was for those of you who knew Harlan, he was a very temperamental but very brilliant man, a dear man in many ways. And he came out that a book that he wrote under a pseudonym back in the 50s was called Sex Gang, and it's under the pseudonym of Paul Merchant. And usually the copies of that go for about $1,000. And I found one that somehow slipped under the radar, and I just won the auction for significantly less than $1,000 because I'm not going to pay $1,000 for that book. And so I just won it. Yay. So very soon on Mr. Sci-Fi, you'll see it on the shelf behind me, Sex Gang. And years later, decades later, Harlan republished those stories with a more sensible title. And it's about juvenile delinquents and all of their behavior. And of course, Harlan ran with those kind of characters. So, pretty fun. But that is probably the rarest and most expensive Harlan book that you can get. So it's fun to have it. So that's about it for now. So again, we'll be here next time, and we'll be announcing about the in-person table meetings. And if there's something you want me to do on Mr. Sci-Fi, just send me a message. And there's a lot of great stuff coming up. If you want to make a spacesuit or a robot or spaceship sets or costumes or anything, posters, there's or
a robot spacesuit.
Yes. And so one of our spacesuits was stolen, very sadly, and so we're looking to get more done. And I just actually bought a spacesuit today from a show called Defying Gravity, not the helmet, sadly, but the suit. And so I'm just trying to make sure that we have what we need. So that's
Did you get the orange one?
What?
Did you get the orange one?
No, it wasn't orange. It was it's white with red piping, and it's pretty fun. It's pretty nice. And but the Defying Gravity was an interesting show, and I keep I've let Ron Moore know that I'd like, when he finishes For All Mankind, I'd like all that stuff, but he probably won't do that. But you can always hope. You can ask. So that's about it for now. So thanks, guys. It's great seeing everyone as always. And and again, Katla is that Icelandic series on Netflix that I very much liked. And that's it for now. So thanks, guys. Have a great July 4th.
Scott Baker says he sent you an email about IHOP.
Yes.
So
I'll check it out. I'll look at it. So thanks a bunch. So we'll talk soon, and happy July 4th.
And be careful of fireworks. It's dry season.
Yes, don't put fireworks on your police truck and expect it not to blow up. That video is quite remarkable, quite amazing, and that's how stuff works. So thanks a lot. Talk soon, guys. Bye. Take care. And bye, Mr. Sci-Fi friends, too. We'll talk soon.